Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is a kind of a late and long edition of the Political Minute. It deals with a lot of stuff that's really old, which, kind of needs to be said, and I've been in and out and trying to do everything. I will say the Murdock trial is over, and it's set a new legal precedent that if you create the situation that leads to a person's death, um, there's going to be new legislation and things made out of this. Because even the judge said, you know, you created a situation by having 60, 80 pills that you were on, and you led to that situation. In of saying to that, there's only 2 or 3 things that will make a drug addict, and I know how you can do that. Everybody knows how to. You just take the sugar pills, cornstarch, make them, and then lace them with some of the ground stuff. Cut them down. You can sell them more to him. And he's a pretty honorable guy. He does legal stuff, so he's going to try and pay it all off. Well, in saying that, guess what happened? He's scared to death. He's going to be able to get more pills. You can sell that house, sell that car, sell everything else. He can get more pills. Okay. You go and get that life insurance money. Go and get those pills. Well, someone might hurry it up for you like they do in New York. So they went out there and they off the 2 people. And he knows they're around because they got to be around somewhere. And he's too scared to admit that he was there around and stuff and everything, kind of a little paranoid. You can even kind of hear that on his voice on that video when he was finally admitted. And I'm going, yeah, he's scared of the collector. He's scared of his drug dealer. Cutting him off. So the drug dealer, pretty much the judge said, you might not remember doing it, but you set up the situation. Set up the situation. He wasn't on any pills that day or anything that I heard about that. So basically, if you make it to where a drug dealer or someone else is going to come and kill a family member so you can pay and do the collecting, you are just as guilty. And I think that's an excellent way of showing the situation, because this can go in all sorts of ways, such as for police and other groups that have set up a situation of extermination of people. Certain people that are Jewish from the Holocaust, that they had fake families around, it's like, well, they'd never act like this, or they'd act too much like this. And basically, anybody who would come around that they were going to get with or anything, they end up marrying off, whatever it is. They created a situation for the extermination of this line. They created a situation for a law enforcement riot that led to the deaths of these people over here. They created a situation where through extortion or extreme undercover work led to the deaths of these civilians or something else from a third party. This is the whole thing, is that they can be tried just as much as someone naval recon, FBI, or regular citizen. In a third party way, the third party went and shot party A that they were pretending to be covering over. They can be found guilty, or else someone ultimately in the order given situation can be found guilty as a third party who set up, or a secondary party who set up the situation that led to the death. This is eye-opening. Now, while there's going to be legislation done, because people are going to look at that and go, police, military recon, other stuff, drug dealers, and an addict that set up the situation for why the person died. there's a broad spectrum here, and this is going to lead to so much law and legislation that it is going to be phenomenal. And that final statement of the judge as he's reading the verdict from the jury, and the jury's telling Murdock he's guilty. Now, I can say that, I can say safely, like, Al Capone, everybody knows where Al Capone's liquor was if you were around in the 20s and stuff. There's a guy up the road, and about 4 roads over, that is obsessed that the Murdocks put him in jail. They were the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, tried him and everything else in 1943, trials in Italy when it fell. And, I can safely say this guy who's 90 years old, and he's really kind of like just disappeared, but he was all out there, and he'd all be about Murdocks and the A-Team Murdock, and anything that was named Murdock. And as far as I know, I don't know any way that they were over there with that. But they are, without a doubt, somehow there is a connection. And there are some people who went and talked him down and been like, don't worry, this will be really... But he didn't get what he was supposed to get, and he didn't get the death penalty and everything. And I'm just going, there's no way to prove that his network sold him the pills, that made the pills or anything else. There's no way that I can even tell you his name really for who he really is. Everybody kind of knows him. They've been around there. He's understandable. And I'm just going, it's the World War II Cold War that they have against us and how they reconstruct us. And it's just the simple fact that somebody could have a name and why they're targeted. Excuse me. Moving on from that, World War I reconstruction has been finalized and everything about 2 years later. It's done right after the second year of Donald Trump's term and everything. Well, I'll say they missed some of it with like the Menager and the sonic weapons and stuff, with how they killed like telegraph operators and the communications people with that, and messed with a lot of that in World War I. And the manager's like, we can go through any of your stuff, we can do any of this, because a manager has something, it's almost like the Lord Marshal, or else the specific 1,000 people from Joe Biden and things like that, or someone who's specifically underneath like a czar from the president. They kind of like try to get into that around here. They've basically stuck everybody here since, I don't know, I think the Revolutionary War with a lot of them. And it's just constantly going on and on. And it's a very interesting situation with how it all comes up and how it keeps doing. Now, in saying all of this, I think that it's helped out a lot of people, the finalization, reconstruction of World War I. Even though they told me how it's like it's a pyramid, cone, cyclone thing, that basically there's Mussolini, all the Christs, all the emperors and dictators and the managers and the kings and everything else are all the way down through there. And they're supposed to just change behavior and everything else so it meshes more with whatever's supposed to be done. In and of itself, it seems to have helped out a lot of people. And I do mean people that I've seen on YouTube talking, and they're going, it just seems a whole lot better since Trump's been in office. And I'm going, they go on about how they say they're not really white, but, it's like, well, my granddad was German, and most in particularly 2 Oriental people, Tim Pool and Mike Glover Actual. In saying all this, I do believe it's the fact of how much suspicion they've been under because of possibility of World War I. And I know that sounds really dumb and stupid, but it's kind of the blindside situation. I'm broad-shouldered. As you can tell, I can still flex the chest a lot, kind of like The Rock did. People instantly think that I'm German. I do have one uncle who's not blood related to me that is from there. He just happens to be, however it is. And with saying that, yeah, there's probably some people that are still here from World War One somehow because they just can't send them back. And, with everything being finalized, it's kind of like, well, you're here and you weren't over there. So it's like 15 years or 5 years probation. So there'll be a lot of people being sent back during this time period over World War One. And we probably will not finalize World War Two until we have these others until all the World War Ones are sent back. With however it is over a probationary thing for them, their families, and everything else, because it's a royalty situation. And whenever you deal with royalty, it deals with lineage. And, they just live amongst us. And going on past that, let's just move along from these older issues that seem to be playing out, and it seems to be alleviating a lot of things on people. And while I can say there is some stuff that's coming up, I've seen a few YouTube videos where people are openly yelling and openly saying that yes, there are, and yes, I can say it's like there is intimidation and things done by black people. And yes, this final court case has been done, and some people have moved all the way from one end of the country to the other. One on YouTube that I'm going to leave out because he didn't leave it out on his YouTube video, and if it ever comes up or is found, then there it is. And they've had to make sure doors are locked on a lot of the filming or something else because whatever it is. And his name doesn't match anything with the guy that was just on here who said he did nothing wrong and maintained his innocence and was brought in for crowd control after the fact. But it's like he violated people's rights. So he's going to be found guilty. And he went with a judicial decision, which is probably better for him. Everything in the running from that, since that's gone down, through whatever the annoying hacker network that I try to stay out of, I'm going to leave me alone all the time with it. They have said to me that there is no right for anybody to say anything differently other than what's going to be done. And I'm just looking at it going, it's people I know that are here for World War II reconstruction, and they just have curly hair. But at the same time, we can't say anything out there, and they're in government. I've been told I'm not supposed to go with anything just because they found one or two lineages to people or something. And yeah, we had historical lineage. They want to try and test in DNA and found out I'm related to some people overseas that used to be historically important or something. It's kind of like, there's a Viking thing out towards, Canada and where they came across, and it's like, well, you actually have these people in there, and it's like, you weren't considered white until Donald Trump got into office. Even if it's like less than that 2%, whatever it is, the 3% out there with it. And I'm just going, probably has a birth date on it, so I'm still supposed to fill out something. They're going to be like, you can't put that down. And, they've chased this guy around there and said, you can't say you're this anymore. You can't say it. And it's like, probably has to because of his birth date, unless they make it retroactive. And, people get offensive because we don't follow the Roman standard, which is when I look at you, I see what you are, and you have to match whatever Rome says and it's comedy's cult, because we don't go by cult law here or anything else, nor Christian law. And Christianity is technically supposed to transport its people back, and they're not allowed to have a church here. They don't transport people back that they have found every year on New Year's. They have until New Year's to send someone back through their works and tithes. They do not have a legitimate right to run baptisms and christenings, confiscation of resources, any of the things that, like, at a tiki torch raid, they want to say being replaced. They're not allowed to replace the local population, take over strategic resources, food, or anything else. And they are supposed to still, under legislative law, be sent back home. It's technically illegal for them to be here, and it is separating them from their system and everything else, and leaving them in a form of undue stress. They do have to prove that they are related to these people, and they cannot do any violence against people here based off of any Catholic edict that they are partially them or something else, or come from a group of people that they were supposed to breed into being or something else like that. That being said, that's supposed to be handled under World War I Reconstruction, but it's supposedly going to be handled under World War II Reconstruction. This is just how things will be constantly kept going. It's going to be a very interesting, trying times here, considering that Vietnam Reconstruction was done 35 years after, and Korea, still kind of one of those things that's around with World War II. And it's considered like a continuational act because of a UN resolution. So there's all sorts of theaters with the USA and future reconstruction. But as it is, I hope everything goes for the best and we can return to something a little bit more normal. Looking at things here with Biden, the hot topic Biden. He's starting to slip up a little bit in the fact that he's showing that he's been playing kind of sleepy and dumb. He's really getting a little bit more on top of it. I know a lot of people have been saying he's not been acting presidential. I don't know how you can really say that. It's just one of those situations out there that stuff is really coming up and it's changing. And a lot of it is. And while we all would love to bust him on whatever it is with him and his family that's around here and stuff, and everybody's going to go on about how they have transvestite in the family and everything else, and it's like, well, you're still here under World War II Reconstruction for the Blue Brigade. You're all here because of World War I Reconstruction. It's kind of like with Blacksit. He basically told them, and they have some people here that, well, you should have chose who you inbred with better. I guess you're going to have to start over. And they were really talking about, and this is probably why he's not going to get a second term, because they're such strong players, that they were talking about, is there any way for them to move up in the future and what they would need to be doing. And that's basically it. These things do happen, and it is kind of that much at a luncheon. And there's no way you can move up working with that person or gain any more experience. You got to go. And that's what's going to have to happen. And with everything, with all of it, it's just what's I mean, I wish I could say something here because, their family, we don't have human sacrifices or anything else, cannibalism of our enemies or anything else like that. I would love to say how they just want to find a nice little town and descend upon it that's really just too independent in what they're jealous their little town can ever become or be. And, not get, thrown into a mental ward or something else like that. And go over very precisely why they should be. And I know the area is videotaped. It was even videotaped from aerial satellites, shall we say, not orbital satellites. Even when Knoxville was burning to the ground. And they really couldn't even say it was racist for 3 years. Because they just wanted whatever was in Oak Ridge. And everybody just made off with it like some espionage bandit stuff. And it is... I really would want to say more, and I'm going, it's all legal tiddlywinks, because they've tried it in the court of public opinion. Therefore, not one of it has been administered into evidence properly. So whatever's been said in public opinion does not have anything to do with what's been made a motion of. Everybody goes like, the Hunter laptop and stuff. Okay, no one filed it with the court. Not even incorrectly or correctly. They just go, doesn't a reporter's reporting mean something? It's like, no, freedom of the press means that we can talk about it and do everything else. And if we can work out the issue amongst ourselves, we don't have to go to the court. But we do have the right to assemble in an assembly of justice. Whether it's via the president's thought process or the court that then says, the president's overstepped his boundaries. This is really where it is. But technically, you can look at it as with the Supreme Court with things such as a dating website, me being a citizen, having the Visa card and passport that I have to go around with. But at the same time, I'm not really able to go anywhere and bring over this person. And technically the court looks at it with borders. So you have to kind of go through the court because she's not able to be represented here. Or him these days. Of course, these days at times I will say, I don't think there's a girl in the strip club anymore. Anyway, as much as I'd love to say that Biden's going to get caught in the money scams or a procedural mishap or something else like that, the only way that you're ever going to be able to really say something, they just go, it's Catholic bashing. And it's like, they said it was Japanese bashing because I said, technically, I don't think Bush can be president because his main interest of his entire family underneath, and they go, he's a Baptist Protestant. It's like, no, he's not. He's a Baptist Catholic warrior for mission unto that which is Japan for his family's calling, and then therefore he has a conflict of interest. And for some favors with him, Obama did some favors for back and forth and pulled off a lot of stuff with Japan. Whether it was capable or not, I'm not sure. But in all of that, it possibly led to some of the Asian riots that all Japanese people are to the emperor, even though no Japanese person of the emperor was able to immigrate to the USA until 56 or 58 when the restrictions and like military U.S. martial law was removed over in Japan. Everybody who came before then was one of the Jewish groups that they were genociding. So there it is, and there it's said. Anyway, moving along with this, I hope to be more up to date and current with it. And as much as I'd love to just say we don't take people out on stone altars or picnic tables and cut them open and eat their heart and everything else. And we've always maintained that standard and executed people and deported their wives and children back to their original European country for them to raise the children and get mad at us and everything else and lead to World War I and World War II. I'm just saying whatever. And the only reason why anyone's an Indian fighter and so important is because they represent the secular government that is here, 1776 or 1781 or something else like that, when the war was over, or 1791 when the presidency was made. Just in saying all of that and everything else, there's that government from the returned slaves and everything, and that were red from the Americas, and how they had broken free of their masters and everything. And 1619 and Bacon's War was supposed to reestablish the order and a bunch of other stuff through there. And then the French and Indian War was supposed to get into fight against each other, and they'd be too weak as they built up their numbers here in order to control everything. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I'd love to say with it, and be like, slavery records before 1812 were just hidden populations of the Christian church that was removed in all ways and forms from the colonies, or else the newly formed United States and everything. And we got rid of everybody who took them out, and the priest, sacrificed them and did other disgusting, worthless things in order to hold them and everything and control their families. And it's magic because they don't understand psychology. If you killed their person on a stone altar in front of them, and it's like there's lots of other weird stuff and everything else, and everybody's like, you're starting a war with somebody by saying this because you can't exclude whatever. And we supposedly had a war with the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the English, and the Dutch, and a bunch of others in legal situations and everything else. And even disrespected the Pope when he offered us complete sovereignty as a new people. And it's like, thank you for recognizing us. And since you've given us this and spoken to us, you can never challenge us or do anything to us ever again. And they cited the legal law of Catholic dogma back then, and they memorialized it in a bronze placard that's in the top of the Washington Monument. As it is, this is part of World War II reconstruction and everything else. And while certain people think that you're supposed to go out there and sacrifice Native Americans and everything, and it makes you president or something else, only whenever one of the Native American tribes or a unit of them has wanted to overthrow the main area. When we first started off with this, we were a United Nation of Nations, and that was considered everything. And Manifest Destiny was just what someone used to coin as, anywhere the manifest went, it was their destiny to re-rule it. And everyone's like, the Pope assigns you your tribe too, and everything else. The Pope can assign a tribe. The government of the United States in the immigration process through legal immigration. It's supposed to know which tribe you are on and you coming back here or anything else. I know basically since 1980 that doesn't really exist or anything else, and everything. And 30, 25 years after World War II's kind of like end of hostilities between 55 and 58 and all the different theaters, it's pretty much a bygone way of thinking because so many people just came here in mass exodus since none of them recognized the United States as a sovereign territory, except maybe Japan, because they didn't really start with colonization except through the military, and any privateer could come from Germany or Italy and just land here and make a house. And people still do that anywhere you get like that 1 in 25 mile or 1 in 50 mile area. Anyway, it's 30 minutes, so I know I've gone way too far here. It's Colin Dawson with the Political Minute, signing off.